Good afternoon. My name is Kristin Maun, and I am the Director of Housing Development and Incentives for the Tulsa Authority for Economic Opportunity, or TAEO. We are a public trust authority that serves as the lead entity for the City of Tulsa in carrying out community and economic development. So thank you for joining us today for our presentation on PSO's Energy Efficiency Program for multifamily residential properties. Before we begin today's presentation, I want to share with you two opportunities for landlords and property managers at the City of Tulsa. The first is the Abode Initiative, which provides information to landlords and property managers about resources and opportunities in the City of Tulsa, such as this webinar. You can receive regular email updates and also reach out to the City and TAEO with questions or concerns that you may have. There is no cost to participating. Just email me at kmaun@cityoftulsa.org. The second is the Gold Star Landlord Program, a free and voluntary program that provides rewards and incentives for landlords and property managers who engage in the best rental practices. Incentives include advertising and promotion as a Gold Star landlord and access to incentives funded by the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, such as landlord guarantee funds available from the Tulsa Day Center, Housing Solutions, Tulsa Cares, and Divis. For more information on the Gold Star Landlord Program, please visit cityoftulsa.org/landlords or email goldstar@cityoftulsa.org. So today's presentation is on PSO's Energy Efficiency Program for multifamily residential rental properties. There will be an opportunity for questions. Please put your questions in the Q&A section. This presentation is also being recorded and will be made available for sharing online at the City of Tulsa's YouTube page. Now I will turn it over to Jason Fisher.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Fisher. I'm a home energy rater. I'm a BPI Analyst, and I work for a company called ICF International. We're the sole provider for the energy efficiency programs through PSO. And today I'm going to talk about the multifamily program that we have going on. It's really a pretty cool program here. If I can get this thing to move forward here, oh, there it goes. I had to figure out my technical difficulties here. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about today is a real brief safety message. Gas leaks are a huge problem, and this is actually a property that was that's in Tulsa. We thought that they had it's a pretty serious gas leak, and because of the sulfur smell and all of that, but it turned out that somebody had actually gone in there and stolen a gas dryer, and the next person that walked by was going to go check the clothes, and it lit the thing on fire and blew the wall out. So when we go through properties, we always look for gas leaks, and we've got meters that can tell us how much of a gas leak it is. To verify what we find, we put a soapy solution on the connection or where we think the leak is, and if it bubbles up, like is in the picture in the left there, we know that it's probably a leak and we need to get somebody out there to fix it. Another big problem that we have is flame rollout. And if you see these pictures here at the very bottom of this where the arrow is, that shows flame rollout. So basically what's happening is the combustion appliance zone, or the CAS, has depressurized. In other words, it's pulling air out of that little closet. And what happens is instead of the flue operating as it normally does, in other words, hot air is buoyant, so it goes up the flue and out of the unit itself or the property itself. What happens is all of those gases are coming straight down that appliance, and then it's actually pulling the flame or pulling the fire out of the bottom of that water heater. It's an extremely dangerous thing to see. You can, if you see the little burn marks on the front of that water heater, then you'll know that's what's happening. But that's important to get fixed. So here are a few other problems that we've seen out in the field with flue connections. The one on the left there, I don't know if they're trying to talk the the hot gases into going up that flue just by themselves, but it's missing a key piece. This little piece right here is called the draft diverter. And what that does is it collects all of those gases as they go in, the flue and then up that flue. So it kind of collects it and it gets the draft going. In order for a flue to work correctly, it has to be almost vertical. And as you can see, this one kind of has this little lumpy thing down at the bottom. So the flue gases are not really going up that flue. They're collecting inside here and then they're rolling out the top. Depending on how that appliance is burning, that could be very dangerous. Carbon monoxide could be spilling out into the units. This one is even worse though. This is kind of a snaky little thing that they've got going on here. I don't know what they're thinking, but there's no way that the flue gases are going out of the top of that flue like that. And you can actually see rust starting to accumulate around the bottom of that draft diverter. That's telling me that those flue gases are rolling back out of that flue. And since there's water in the exhaust of everything, it collects there and it starts to rot that out. So that's kind of a key feature of a water heater that's not properly flued and is working correctly. So the point of the safety measures or the safety piece is just to watch out for this kind of stuff. Make sure that it's fixed whenever you see it. I see this stuff all the time, unfortunately, even in really big houses and that kind of thing. But in multifamily properties, it seems like there's more of it. So let's watch out for that. Moving right into the PSO rebates, anything that is a tripleplex, in other words, bigger than a duplex, but 3 units pieced together or up, is considered multifamily for us. So that means that retirement homes are in there, quadplexes, dorms, apartments, high-rise multifamily, like great big units. We can do all of that stuff. And here are some of the things that we can do as far as a rebate for those units. So parking lot lighting is obviously huge. We're going to talk about each one of these kind of piecemeal. Some appliances are rebatable. Insulation, air sealing, knee walls, crawl space, ductwork, HVAC replacement. And that's actually a huge one. I've seen a lot of HVACs that really need to be replaced. A lot of them look like boat anchors from the Titanic. Windows, chillers we'll talk about. Water heaters are a big one as well. And then pool pumps and then some sensors for lighting and stuff. We'll talk about each one of those in individual pieces here. First one is exterior lighting. And I think that the pictures on the right side there are just an enormous help to sell this kind of stuff to the people that are the investors. As you can see, it's not just the parking lot that helps that is helped by LED lighting, but it makes everything so much safer. It cuts down on theft. It really cuts down on a lot of the behaviors that we see at some of the apartment complexes that are really not really great, so it's a really good safety measure. And the other beauty of it, it saves a lot of energy too. And we've got rebates for all of that. Interior lighting is also a great one to do. If you have incandescent bulbs and you're participating in the program, in other words, you're doing a few other things, maybe like adding insulation or whatever the case may be, then we're able to give you light bulbs for the high use units or the high use areas. So that would be a kitchen, bathroom, living room, those sorts of things. If, however, you're going to be replacing all of the fixtures out anyway, let's go with LED fixtures. Send me over a list of those that you're going to be replacing and make sure that we get it in first and get it approved, and we'll get you some rebate money for those things. Water heaters are another big one. The water heater must be a 0.95 efficiency rating, and it has to be a 10-year warranty. What we're seeing is that a lot of time these little low boys over here on the right-hand picture are really kind of difficult to get a water heater rebate on because the efficiencies aren't as high. There's a couple manufacturers out there that do make them. But if you have a regular size water heater and you want to go to a heat pump water heater, we're all about that. Those things are really efficient. They might be a little bit more expensive, but we can help offset some of that cost with a rebate. So, do some shopping there. If you guys have questions on any of this, give me a call. I can walk you through some of it. The picture in the middle there is a gas water heater. Obviously, we're the electric company, so we can't do anything on gas. And I also want to call attention to that flue. That thing looks horrible too. So you guys kind of watch out for those sorts of things. The gas company may have a water heater rebate for you. I'm not real sure about that. You might have to call ONG and find out about it. Pool pumps. One on the left there is a brand new Pentar pool pump. These things are wonderful. They've got a variable speed motor in them, and they're pre-programmable. So you can adjust the amount of flow rate on them. You can adjust how many times the water cycles through that pool, and it really saves a lot of energy. The one on the right-hand side, if your pump is looking like that, you need to give me a call. That thing is getting a little old. And once they're on, a lot of times those pumps are wired into the system directly. And so there's no on or off. It's just on. And it's on throughout the entire duration of the summer. So you could imagine how much money that can save you by replacing that water pump with a good one. All right, so when we're going to talk about multifamily units, what I really want to kind of push home here is the whole idea of the house or the complex as a system. Everything together. So the air works together with the HVAC system, energy sources. There's all kinds of air flowing from one piece to the other, and it's the science that most of us learn in junior high or maybe high school. It's applied to buildings. That's what I do all day long. So, that's on here. Air sealing and insulation. So hot air is buoyant. And one of the principles that we learned a long time ago. And so if hot air is buoyant and you've got leaks at the bottom of the unit, this is a house, it's depicting a house, but I mean, the same kind of thing happens with apartment complexes as well. So cold air will come in at the bottom, it exits or it's pulled out of the top through attic hatches, recessed lighting, various holes that are in the envelope. And that's what we're talking about when we do air sealing. We want to make sure that the sealing is done correctly so the insulation works the right way. Fiberglass insulation is what we usually use in our area, and it's porous. It allows air to go through. So unless you seal up all of those holes that are there, the insulation just simply doesn't work as well. Now, this is stack effect. The bigger the building, the more air you have going out. If you think of it kind of like a chimney. So if you have a really tall chimney, that stack effect allows that hot air that is buoyant to go faster and faster through the top of that chimney. Well, the same thing happens with a high rise. So if you have a really hot day outside, you're conditioning the air inside. Guess what's going to happen when you open that door? Exactly. All that cold air is going to be rushing out of the bottom and the heat's going to be coming in the top, vice versa in the wintertime. So the whole key to this is to take each individual unit piece by piece, put a blower door on it, figure out where those leaks are, and then we can seal those leaks up. The other added benefit to this, believe it or not, is bugs. If you seal up the hole, well, the cockroaches can't go from your neighbor's apartment unit to your apartment unit and vice versa. There's not a pathway to go through anymore because we've stopped the airflow. We've also stopped the bugs and the vermin coming through. So it does have an added benefit, the air sealing does, but the beauty of it is there's a lot of efficiency that can be made just by air sealing these things. As I said, the taller the building is, the more air sealing is required. And we can help you through that process because we've got blower doors that are out there. We can figure out where those leaks are and help you achieve success. This is the way we test everything. So the left side picture there shows a blower door in a house. Basically what that does is it simulates a 15-mile-an-hour wind on every surface of the house. So we put that in the door, we fire up the blower to 50 pascals, and then the little gauge there is called a manometer, and it'll show us how much CFM is coming out of the house through various holes. The other great thing about this piece of equipment is as you're walking through the unit or the house or the apartment complex, whatever it may be that you've got connected to, if you have your hand out, you can feel the air hitting in the palm of your hand and you can find those holes. So for instance, if you're walking towards a bathroom, the air is hitting the palm of your hand, you keep going towards the bathroom, you close the door for that bathroom and it sucks shut, you know there's a pretty big hole on the other side of that door. So that's how we find these leaks. Really cool way to do it. The other side here on the right side is a duct blaster. And basically that's exactly the same thing as a blower door. We just connect it to the ductwork. And we can pull that ductwork down to 25 pascals and figure out how much is leaking, where those leaks are, and then we can advise you on how to fix all of that too. But these are the couple of main pieces of equipment that we use when we're testing everything. This is what air leaks look like in the real world. One on the left, the plumber fixed the toilet, but forgot to fix the hole in the sheetrock. That sheetrock is the air barrier, so we really need to get that fixed and painted back over. The middle one there is one of the worst things that I see in apartment complexes. I see them all the time, but these are attic accesses in the closet. Most of the time, that's either a piece of plywood or a piece of sheetrock that's open and that's over an open square hole, and air is just blasting right through there all day long. If we can get those things sealed and insulated, put back together right, it makes an enormous difference in the energy efficiency. And then the one over on the right side was a water leak, and they failed to fix that leak the hole that was made in the sheetrock ceiling after the leak had happened. So that's what that kind of looks like in the real world. This is how we fix that stuff. We put caulk, mastic, foam, all kinds of stuff around it, and that'll seal it right up. The picture on the right side is an air transfer from the inside of the unit to where the CAS is, or the combustion appliances. Basically, that's for fresh air coming into that area so that the gas appliance can burn properly. The problem with it is, if you look there, there's a sheetrock going up against wood, and then that wood goes, or that cavity goes all the way up to the crawl space. I mean, not the crawl space, the attic. And so when the unit is under negative pressure with the HVAC system on, or the gas appliances burning something, it's pulling air down through that cavity and into the unit. Proper way to do this, you just close that off, seal it up with some either caulk or foam. We can even use mastic on that, and it'll seal it so that the air transfer can still happen correctly, but it's not pulling air from those areas that we really don't want air pulled from. Attic insulation. So the picture is on the left and the picture in the middle there. This was a fairly new, when I'm saying new, it was built in the 2018, 2019 era. And when I went up there, the people that were talking about buying this place, they were wondering why the bills were so high for this. It was an all bills paid apartment. When I went up there, I didn't find a stitch of insulation. Now think about that. It's a brand new building and nobody checked for insulation. The great thing about it is they've got the rulers. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but the rulers are right there. So I guess they intended to put insulation in it, but they chose not to do it. After we got done, you can see the picture on the right there. That's what it looks like, and that's what it should have looked like when I walked up in there. But somebody got taken. Whoever it was that paid for that insulation to start with did not get what they were paying for. And the beauty of our system is not only are we checking it and making sure that they're doing it the right way, but we make sure that the contractor is kind of vetted through our system and they know what they're doing as well. This is yet another way of insulating that same area if they chose to do it this way. This is a foam encapsulation, and so they used an open cell foam there. They foamed it all the way out so that it covers all of the framing members so you don't have heat transfer through that. And then the great thing about it is if that ductwork leaks, it's going to leak in the conditioned space, that conditioned attic. So you're not losing as much energy through the ductwork there as you would have had it been in the opposite kind of arrangement. Knee walls. We see knee walls in mostly these are quadplexes or triplexes. We occasionally see these in larger apartment complexes, but it's kind of rare. But basically a knee wall is this wall right here that is being shared with interior space and attic space. What that usually looks like is this right here. So you've got fiberglass insulation on that wall. The problem is the surface of the sheetrock is cold or hot, depending on what season you're in. And so a convective loop of air that is flowing through that fiberglass insulation, and it's basically pulling those temperatures from one side to the other side. So it's a massive energy suck. The way to fix this, you pull all of that off and you put open cell foam on the outside of that, and now that knee wall is fixed. It's not going to allow air to pass along the sheetrock anymore. And the beauty of doing it this way too is at the very bottom, I don't have a picture of this, but at the very bottom, we close off all of the areas underneath that living space, foam down all the way to the sheetrock. And so now hot air from the attic isn't flowing underneath that floor space and heating up the unit from the below. Crawl spaces. Occasionally I see crawl spaces in, believe it or not, pretty large multifamily projects. And we also see these sometimes in the knee walls and that, I mean, in smaller stuff like duplexes, quadplexes, and triplexes. But basically crawl space is this area that's raised up. It's got dirt right there. So water coming from the drains on the outside can go underneath the footer, and it basically accumulates underneath that crawl space. And then as the air conditioner comes on, it pulls that moisture through the floor and it makes everything really bad. Now, the other problem with it is as it's pulling the moisture and the air through that floor space, it's also bringing with it other stuff like bug debris, pollen, mold, mildew, feces from vermin. So it's really a good idea to get these things sealed up. It's not just an energy thing, it's more of a health thing too. And we've got ways to do that. One of the ways that we do it is right here. We foam the walls of that unit or that crawl space, and we close off that crawl space. Underneath here is going to be a vapor barrier. So on the ground is a zero perm vapor barrier, and it goes up the walls and then it's foamed over. Now, what's going to happen when you do it this way is this crawl space then is going to be conditioned air. So we really need to drain there, and we need probably some kind of a way to cycle that air. It may just be a small return or something like that, but that's the best way to get that done. Now, if you have water that's sitting on the ground, or you have lime deposits, or maybe it's muddy, this is not the way to do it. This is the way to do it. This is what this looks like in the real world. And so you can see the foam here, you see the vapor barrier, and then the frame of the floor is right through here. So that's what it looks like when it's done correctly. Here's the other way to do it. So as I was saying, if you see lime deposits, water, any of that kind of intrusion, water intrusion down here in that crawl space, the best way to do it is to foam underneath the flooring system and then foam all of the framing members with a closed cell foam at least to a 2.5 inch thickness. And that's going to slow down that vapor transfer through the floor, but it's also going to stop a lot of the air as well, and it's going to condition that, basically condition everything from the foam up. This area here is left open so that it can breathe a little bit. It's got the vents on the outside and stuff, so that air will flow through there and dry that out, or at least it'll attempt to dry it out. And this is what that looks like again in the real world. See, the foam is all the way around all of the framing members. It's covering basically everything. It's just as big as a big foam pile. So we're kind of moving a little bit fast, but I'm going to keep going here. The HVAC system is one of the most important systems that we deal with on a daily basis. And the problem is this: if you just have a guy with a truck come out and replace the HVAC system, then you're probably going to get this. If you buy a 13 SEER, this is what this is down here. If you buy a 13 SEER air conditioner and he just plops it in and installs it like he normally would, you're getting about 8.5 SEER out of it. In other words, you're not getting what you're paying for. In order to get what you pay for, you have to do all of this other stuff. So you have to size it correctly. In other words, you don't oversize the HVAC system at all. It's sized in a manual J load calculation, and we can figure out how big it should be by that. The ductwork, you see how big that piece is. That's why we have rebates for ductwork specifically, because ductwork is such an enormous problem in our area. And if we get that sealed up, the HVAC system is going to be operating much more closer to the SEER that you've paid for. Correct flow, this has to do with ductwork. In other words, I'm sure everybody has gone out in the summertime and pinched a hose, and you can see that the water flow on the other end of that hose slows down or even stops. Well, the same thing happens in ductwork. So if it's closed, if it's pinched off, if it's squished or turns a corner really tight, it's going to slow down that air so much so that you may not be able to get the proper flow out of it. And we want to make sure that all of the ductwork is straight, even, and going where it should go. Proper charge deals with the refrigerant inside the HVAC system, and that has to be correctly topped off to the manufacturer's spec. And as you can see, if you do all of those things, then you get what your money is paying for. You get that 13 SEER out of that air conditioner. Now, this is kind of an old slide, I know, because 14 SEER is the code now, but it depicts exactly what has to happen in order to get your money's worth out of an HVAC system. And the beauty of the PSO program is we watch all of this, we test for it, and we make sure that you guys are getting what you're paying for. This is the, whenever we go in and do a blower door and a duct blaster, we put plastic stuff over the top of that. Sometimes it's tape. This is cellophane. And when we fire up the blower door, if the blower door pulls this stuff off of the returns or the supplies, then we know that there's a leak on the other end of that. Most leaks are going to happen inside that return. The return is a massive piece where it's pulling a lot of the air into the system. And because of that, it's really important to get that sealed up correctly, because not only are you affecting the health and life of the unit itself, the HVAC system itself, but you're affecting the health and the life of the inhabitants and the people that live there. Most leaks can be sealed up with caulk or with a sealant that we call Mastic. Some leaks are a little bit more difficult, and we need to figure out some other things to do. And we kind of, when we're looking at the ductwork, we advise you on what to do, or we advise the HVAC guy on what to do if he doesn't know. All of the boots need to be sealed to the sheetrock. Usually that happens with caulk. This is a good example of the filter grill as you're looking into the return itself. And as you can see, there's a crack right along here, and there's no mastic at the bottom of this. So basically what's happening is, even though you have a filter here, the air is coming from these areas because that's the easiest way in. And so that needs to be masticed, needs to be sealed up with caulk, and it'll work so much better if we can get that done. This is another example of returns. The one on the left here, basically what I tell people is if you see stuff down there, if there's debris, if there's dead bugs, whatever the case may be, then that filter, number one, isn't working, and number two, your return is not sealed correctly. And as you can see, all along these seams, that has to have a sealant on it. Very rarely do we go into apartment complexes, or for that matter, houses, even really expensive houses, and see that this is done the right way. So the beauty of it is, there's a lot of ways for improvement, and I've got some pictures of what it looks like or what it should look like at the end of this. This is another crazy one that I see sometimes, but they don't have the right filter for the system. And so I don't know, you can see this big gap here. I don't know how the air knows to go through the filter and not that hole, but I'm pretty sure it's going around the hole. So let's get the correct size of filters in all of these units, and let's make sure that everything's sealed up and done the right way. All right, this is another one too that I've taken some pictures of. These little boxes down here are, it's rat poison or it's cockroach poison. The poison that is in this is strychnine. So as air flows over that strychnine, it's then goes through the system and is dispersed throughout the entire unit. And this is a horrible way to have air flow through your house, because then it's laced with strychnine. And I mean, you wonder why your kids are getting sick. This might be why. So let's get that stuff out of that return. Let's make sure that it's good and sealed up, and then we won't have cockroach problems in the first place. There we go. These are the places where we have to have mastic. Basically anywhere that has the label mastic on it is what we seal up. It's the returns, it's the supplies, it's the connections between the HVAC system and the ductwork. Basically, anytime you have a seam, it needs to have mastic on it. Registers are the same way. This is called a boot right here. And so this piece has to be sealed up as it's attached to the ductwork. All of that is sealed with mastic. And this is what it looks like in the real world when it's done correctly. You see it's nice, clean. There's mastic on all of the seams. This is what your returns should be looking like. And they will look like whenever we're finished. All right, air conditioners. So here's a great picture of what I typically see in the multifamily arena. 14 SEER is code right now. This thing is so old, I don't even think it has a SEER. I mean, maybe a SEER of like 5, but that's incredibly old. And I'm honestly really surprised that some of these units are even working still, because they should have been replaced, back when I was a baby, but they're still out there. We've got great rebates for this kind of stuff though, $600 to $800, depending on what you get. The higher you go in the SEER rating, the better off you are as far as the money goes. They do have to have an AHRI certificate. AHRI is a third party, and they certify all of the HVAC systems to the correct SEER or efficiency that the unit is working at. And PSO is obviously, it's a better than a code program, because that's how we get our savings. All right, so this is a picture of a typical HVAC system. This is the coil. This is the condenser. And so one of the things that we ask for whenever we're looking at that the AHRI certificate is that the coil, in other words, this piece here, and the condenser, or the coil here and the condenser here, are matched. It's a matched system. So if this is a mismatched system, AHRI does not certify that, and we can't pay for it or pay a rebate on it. So it's very important that we make sure that those two pieces are matched whenever you do replace those. Both sides, the HVAC, the furnace, and the air conditioner outside, those two pieces have to be replaced in order to get money from us. All right. The other great thing about our about replacing old HVAC systems is basically some of these things are so old, they're really dangerous. Not just the maintenance problems that you guys have to deal with sometimes and upset tenants, but this right here is a 70 AFUE furnace. And unfortunately, I see these quite a bit in the multifamily arena. Very rarely do I see these in houses anymore, but basically what this is, it's using the air around the furnace for combustion. And this piece right here is where the air comes into the flue and makes the hot air buoyant. So these things are horribly inefficient. They're 70, they use 70 AFUE is what the designation is on that. And basically what that tells me is for 100% of the gas that comes into your unit to burn, 70% of it is converted to heat. The rest of it is waste that goes out the top. So we really want to make sure that these are replaced. When you replace them, let's get a good 16, 18, 20 SEER air conditioner out there and make your tenants happy. You won't have any maintenance issues anymore. And the beauty of it is you won't be sued because they are gas leaks or carbon monoxide leaks that are coming out of those that could potentially be deadly. So we want to save everybody, and let's get these things replaced. All right, this is another thing that I see quite a bit. Window units. If the HVAC system isn't working properly, a lot of companies will go ahead and plop these window units in. The window units are even less efficient than that old decrepit HVAC system that we talked about a little bit earlier. But to make matters worse, this piece is absolutely horrible. There's windows don't have a really good R value to start with, but cardboard I'm pretty sure has less of an R value than a good window. And that duct or that duct tape that's sealed up or trying to seal up those gaps and holes, that's not doing a very good job. So let's pull those things out. We'll put a mini split in there or a good air conditioner and heater combo, and then you won't ever have to have these eyesores anymore. And it's a great long-term solution. So again, let's go ahead and replace those. A lot of places have boilers and chillers. This is a picture of a boiler and chiller on the left side. The right side is the piping that goes from these two units. Usually it goes underground through the parking lot, or it could be in a grassy area, but it goes to each one of the buildings so that those buildings have hot water. They've got hot air and they've got cold air as well, but the pipes will start to deteriorate after a long time. And these systems are, they'll start to deteriorate. It's a mechanical piece of equipment, so it'll break after a while. Boilers are the same way. So we do have a great way of fixing this, however, and it's called mini splits. This is what a mini split looks like. It's got an outdoor unit, an indoor unit. These pods hang on the wall. You can even get some that are flush mounted, that are up in the ceiling and they're flat, but there's no ductwork in here. So it's not only more efficient just simply because the ductwork is missing or gone, but the other great thing about it is these are super energy efficient as far as the SEER rating goes. A lot of these are in the 19s to 24, 25 SEER. So they're fabulous as far as the efficiency ratings on it. They're quiet and they work really well as a replacement for those big chiller boiler systems. So if that's something that you're interested in, give me a shout and I can get you connected with the guys that do this all the time. They're really good at it. All right, so I have finally come to the end of the presentation. I'm open for questions, so feel free to shoot me some questions over and let's see if I can help you out. And I'm going to go ahead and advance it to the next slide here. This is all of my contact information, the contact information for my counterparts. And then Mike Kernan there is the PSO contact. He actually works for PSO and he manages this program. So if you got questions or anything that you need to bounce off of him, there's his contact information. And so like I said, go ahead, I'm open for questions.
I don't see any questions so far.
I guess I just wowed them with all the buildings.
You certainly wowed me. And I'll also let our attendees know that while this is focused on multifamily, we will have another presentation tomorrow at noon that is going to focus on rebate programs for single family homes. So if you have additional questions about single family homes, there will be additional opportunities to learn more tomorrow.
And Kristin, that's a great segue for, this is Mike from PSO. We have programs for basically anything that's using electricity. So if you are in a situation where you're going to change out a piece of equipment or upgrade your home business, make sure you reach out to one of the people on this list and we'll make sure we get you a rebate for that.
All right. Well, seeing no questions, Jason, you just covered everything so well. There was nothing to ask. We'll go ahead and end today's webinar. Hopefully you'll be able to join us tomorrow. For those who were unable to join us today, we have been recording this and it will be available for sharing on the City of Tulsa's YouTube page. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity.